Welcome to Sportscast from the Queen City. From the Queen City, we're here to talk a little bit about the Reds. My name is Steven,
And I'm Zach.
and the Reds fired David Bell, and I was a little surprised that they fired him with 5 games left in the season.
Yeah, instead of just letting him finish out, I wasn't so much surprised as I was surprised with them getting rid of him with 5 games left, but I figured he was going to be fired either way after the season or at some point. I kind of figured he would. I don't know about you though.
I was leaning towards David Bell being fired at the end of the year because it's everyone was calling for him to be replaced. I also know that the Reds front office was going to see this as I kind of see this as like a little bit of a scapegoat in a way.
Yeah, it's been tough. This year the Reds have been really injury prone and real injured. They haven't had like a consistent, I guess, player base from their players. Matt McClain was supposed to come back this year. He got healthy and then during rehab got hurt again. Um, India just went into concussion protocol after the last game, after their most recent game. I mean, it seems like the injury bug just hit the Reds, like out of nowhere almost.
I know that there was a few replacements that were mentioned, like Skip Schumacher. I saw some people calling for Barry Larkin. Even some people calling for Joey Votto to be a outside chance. I even saw the very extreme of Luke Maley being the first player manager since of since one of our own players, I think it was Johnny Bench, did that back in the day. So I thought it was quite hilarious to see that.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get another player coach for the Reds. I know right now or not have to, but we're working with Freddie Benavides as the current manager. Um, I really think that Barry Larkin could have a chance to come in and be the manager, and I feel like I'd be okay with it. He seems to know a lot when it comes. I mean, he's won a World Series with the Reds, so that's a positive. You know, someone that's won a World Series with the Reds that can give a positive impact and have that championship mentality come to the team. He knows the city, he knows the ball club. I feel like he knows the players real well since he's been commentary. Um, so I think that'd be a great hire, would be Barry Larkin.
I'm not too I don't think I want him to be the Reds manager as as much as like how like iconic he has been and how great he has been for the community of Cincinnati and like and around the Reds. I'm not sure if I want Barry Larkin to be the guy. I think that if we could get somebody that's kind of new, um, I would even be okay with Derek Johnson being the manager. I thought he was great as the pitching coach for the Reds.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see coming up. It's one that I think a lot of people are going to pay attention to, not just Reds fans, obviously, but I think there's going to be a few fan bases that are going to be paying attention to it just to see who gets brought in. Because again, if it is someone like a Barry Larkin or a Joey Votto, or in the very extreme case, a Luke Maley player coach, it's going to be a very eye-drawing, attention-grabbing move that the Reds are making. And it's real big because whoever they get, that's the person that everyone's going to say, all right, well, how are you going to turn it around from Bell? How are you going to be different from David Bell? You know, it's one of those things that I know David Bell was under strict fire from Reds fans mainly because of, as we've talked about in other episodes, the pitching that everyone felt like he switched pitchers too fast. He didn't give him enough time in, um, everything like that. They felt like he was doing a lot of weird stuff when it came to rotations for pitching. So we'll definitely have to see.
Another candidate floated around by Jeff Passan of ESPN was Eduardo Perez. He was the son of Hall of Famer infielder Tony Perez, and he played 16 of his 23 seasons in Cincinnati. So that could be an interesting hire.
A name that I think could be one that I don't know if anyone's talked about it, but would be really interesting and almost borderline crazy, similar to like the Luke Maley one, would be a Ken Griffey Jr. Just a
I don't.
weird out there name that like people are talking about Luke Maley player coach. Okay, what about a Ken Griffey Jr. manager role? You know, it's something like you can never not name all these random people in coaching or managing without saying some off the wall name.
Yeah, it would be kind of funny. It'd be really funny because King Griffey Jr. is already on their payroll still, and I'm not sure what the look would be of the Reds double paying him for a manager role and the player role that's still being paid out. I I hope not because that's a lot of money for a player. Uh, this team just needs to get healthy, and what's next for this team is really just contingent on people's health. I heard that Tyler Callahan was moved to the outfield, and he's going to be playing outfield in the Arizona League.
Interesting. Any word on anything for say like a Jonathan India? Do we know yet?
Um,
Like a
Jonathan India's
possible
Jonathan,
future
I-
position or anything?
well, he's frustrated with the Reds because he's been they've been losing pretty
Again,
much all of
I think
his
that's
whole career.
everyone at this point. I think fans are definitely in agreement with him for the frustration because I think the fans in India are of the same company of this team should be competing a lot more than they are. And it's
Well,
frustrating when they have so much talent and it just seems to not be going their way a whole lot.
well, this he his comments of they need to make moves. I want to win. It's the same thing every year here. I'm not sure how ruffled the feathers of the front office will be after a comment like that. I do hope that they take to his advice because everyone in Cincinnati, all the Reds fans in Cincinnati and everywhere else, we're constantly looking for the Reds to make that move, that that signing that pushes this team over the edge. This team didn't do that. And the last time that the Reds were in playoff contention, it's it's seems like they're not going to do it this time. It for a Cincinnati Reds fan or a Cincinnati fan in general, you see the front offices of the Bengals and the Reds, and you kind of wonder, are they trying to win or are they trying to make money?
Yeah, I think the thing that hurts both organizations, both the Reds and the Bengals, is that the people running the show essentially that sign off on every move, Bob Castellini for the Reds and Mike Brown for the Bengals, is everyone sees it and everyone calls it out. They're just cheap. That's a thing that I'll never understand is like feeling the need to be cheap on this stuff when, you know, it makes no sense why you feel the need to be cheap on some of this stuff. Giving guys paid days that they deserve in the MLB just because we're talking about the Reds. Trust me, we'll get to the Bengals. That is on the docket. But when it
That's
comes to the Reds, like there's guys that are coming up off their arbitration years. Jonathan India is on the loom of getting a extension, and yes, he may have had his injuries and everything, but he's played really well. I wouldn't say he deserves a huge major payday, but if you're the Reds, he deserves some kind of payday if you're picking up my flow. Especially Ellie's got 5 more years, I think, on his arbitration. Like you've got guys that are coming up on arbitration and you're gonna have to get them paid. And if you let them walk, then there's gonna be some fans that aren't gonna be vibing with that look. Like, why are you letting half of these guys that were arbitration guys that just got off arbitration that should have been paid? Why are you not paying them? It makes no sense. Like, focusing on the farm is one thing, but then just being so tunnel visioned on the farm system to bring in new guys and just rely on them instead of giving paydays to guys like these other organizations are doing is crazy.
Yeah, the it seems to be a Cincinnati special. Unfortunately, um, the farm system is a bunch of young guys. It's really tough to win with just all young guys. Cleveland is a clear representative that they're a really good team. They're really young, but they're not winning the championship. It's a team with young guys and veterans. You need a mix
Yes.
of those. And I'm going to say that they need someone in the front office to actually realize this and act upon it. Um, this team, this Reds team, it's very exciting to watch. They're a fun, frisky team. They just lose so many games because of so many mistakes. It's very unfortunate. It's almost kind of like some of the young talent on the Bengals, because they fell to 0-3, with the behind a excellent performance by Jaden Daniels, and
If we're going to be honest here, great performances by both quarterbacks, but
it was
yeah,
his moment,
yes.
with especially missing a wide open Terry McLaurin early in the game, then having the poise to do it later in the game when it mattered, game on the line, fourth down, to really just take the top off over Dax Hill, who seems to be struggling in his new position, along with Cam Taylor-Britt, who called the Washington Commanders offense a college offense and
Don't get
got
me started on Cam
right
Taylor-Britt.
and who got rightfully burned by those comments. Everyone went
I
back to
s-
him and asked him, and he said he doesn't regret them. But I think that he should a little bit because he kind of put his teammates on the spot. He kind of gave the Commanders bulletin board material for a game that they should have won. Like they couldn't stop a nosebleed. Like if they rolled out some toddlers out there for offense on the Commanders, they probably wouldn't have stopped them either. And it just brings the question, how dire a situation is this defense in that it's dragging down the offense?
Now I did see a clip from ESPN's First Take of Shannon Sharp, Marcellus, and or
Oh, Marcus
Stephen A.
Spears.
Marcus Spears. I apologize, Marcus Spears. Yes, and Shannon brought up a great point. When did the Cincinnati defense get so cocky to the point that they were talking stuff? Like they talked stuff a couple years ago, but at like the couple years ago they could back that up because the defense was performing so well.
They had
2 years
DJ
ago,
Reader.
and yeah,
DJ Reader, Jesse
yes.
Bates, two
Well, even the year after
excellent
Jesse Bates
players.
left, they still talked that talk and backed it up with Jesse Bates gone. They may have struggled a little bit on defense, but it wasn't to the point that it is this year.
But they also had
And
Chidobe Awuzie,
yes, yes,
who's
yes. I'm
also
not
gone as well.
that's
And a
leading
little
to
bit
my
of
point
Eli,
of
even Eli Apple was serviceable. He might not have been
that's
like the best corner, but he was serviceable.
and that's getting to my point of don't talk because you can't back it up this year. Your defense is atrocious. You guys have been playing terrible. Stop talking and focus on the matchup. Cam Taylor Britt, love you to death. You've been playing pretty good, but you don't it, honestly, you don't have a reason to talk because you talked against the Commanders. Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels exposed you. I'm just keeping it real. They exposed you. You got beat a few times. And again, I'm gonna
Luke
take it
McCaffrey as
easy on
well.
Dax Hill, and because
Luke,
it's his first time playing DB, their offense as a whole, it seemed like Cliff Kingsbury just honestly, in my opinion, Cliff Kingsbury outcoached uh, Lou Anarumo. In my opinion, that may be a
well,
hot take. I'm just calling it what I watched, and
well,
Lou
Cliff
Anarumo seemed
Kingsbury
to be
is a
getting
quarterback
burnt.
whisperer, so he's a quarterback whisperer for a reason. People
But
put
we got
people
to
put
remember he was in Arizona
he was a head coach.
before he got to Washington.
Not every good offensive coordinator is a great head coach. He's a great offensive coordinator, and it's kind of being shown to us
Yeah,
with this
I
offense.
agree with that.
They haven't punted in 2 weeks. That's how good the
Well, and you
offense
got
has
to
been.
remember, they also had, again, I don't know what the extent of Eckler's injury is, but the Commanders also had Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler who were tearing our defense up.
Oh, Luke
Like
McCaffrey as well with some timely catches.
Zach
Oh,
Ertz, Zach Ertz.
the ghost of
Like,
Zach Ertz.
I don't, watching that game, I don't know where Lou's going to go from here.
I
Yes,
think he,
losing DJ Reader killed us. Yes, I
I
agree. We should have kept him. But you you've got to have a game plan if you lose someone like that. Yes, it hurts to lose, but if you're a defensive coordinator, you've got to have a way to make a very good defense or a serviceable defense for at least a year with the pieces you've got. They talked about it last night that Lou Anarumo didn't know what he was going to do with Sheldon Rankins and BJ Hill out. Eh, You've got to have that game plan already in place. That's a red flag to me if I'm a Bengals fan. If you're the defensive coordinator of this team, I am trusting you to go out there with a game plan with who you've got and not have the question of, well, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know. I just I got this game plan. I hope it works. Like that's not what I want to see the paychecks going towards. I want to see the paychecks going towards someone that can make what we have on the defensive end work. Maybe not shut the Commanders out, but at least stop them once on 3rd and 20. Like ha they converted on every third and fourth down, but your your defense is not like I don't understand where we go from if you're the Bengals. I don't understand where you go. Like
well,
it's to the point that I'm starting to get frustrated on defense. I should be frustrated on offense, but our offense performed one of the better games it's had so far. It's only going into the fourth week, but
historically good.
like they may have missed out on red zone opportunities, but that's neither here nor there. Evan McPherson missed a field goal. Can't put all the blame on McPherson. He missed a field goal. It is what it is. End of the day, it happens.
He's
Uh,
missing a little too many.
He is, but if we look across the league, almost every kicker is missing a lot. Historic kickers that have kicked high percentages, Justin Tucker, he's missing a whole lot this year. So it's one of those things. It may just be a bug this year for some kickers, So
Well, the I think the biggest problem with the with Lou Anarumo is that he has a scheme, but he doesn't have the horses to execute that scheme because of just them drafting back end players to replace the other players. like other great players or other good players. They keep replacing their depth because their philosophy is we can replace whoever leaves in the draft. And unfortunately, that just hasn't panned out.
I think if we're
Uh,
going to be honest, I think that's the reason Trey Hendrickson has been upset this offseason going into this season.
yeah, they desperately need Miles Murphy to come back to at least supplement I mean Trey Hendrickson. And
Let me.
I think when he comes back, the defensive line should improve a bit. I do think that Sam Hubbard could potentially be better suited, maybe not starting, but coming in for run stopping downs like first down, second down, and then let Miles Murphy kind of work his magic a little bit on third down on the money downs.
So Miles Murphy won't be back until possibly this week, but it was a 4 to 6 week injury of a knee sprain. So we won't have him possibly until week 6.
It's not looking too good.
I
The
will
back
say
end,
Chris Jenkins did perform pretty well. Being a rookie and it was his first game and he was coming off injury, he didn't do terrible.
yeah, the back
I
end is still a problem, I would say.
I agree.
It just doesn't, it's just not there.
And I mean, if
Uh,
we talked about it with the Reds, they're a cheap organization. Every
yeah.
Bengals fan is frustrated over this. It's you gave Joe Burrow his contract. Everyone expected it to happen everyone across the league knew Burrow was getting his contract. But for you not to get Jamar Chase his contract, for you to not give T. Higgins some kind of contract other than a franchise tag, maybe not big time money, but at least give him something, at least offer him something. It's starting to get frustrating as a Bengals fan because Duke Tobin and Katie Blackburn worked so hard to put the organization and put the team to where it was when we went on a Super Bowl run in the year after that and the year after that to get to the point that we're at now. Those two have put in a tremendous amount of work, and I'm not putting any blame on them. The blame goes to the man that's the owner. He's signing everything. He's the guy that gives the say so on everything. It's the biggest issue the Bengals have is he cannot be in the seat anymore. I didn't grow up with Paul Brown. I don't think a lot of people in the current age did. Maybe the older generation folk that are out there, but you know, I hear it all the time from some of them. Paul Brown's turning in his grave with the way some of the stuff's going for the Bengals. It's ridiculous at this point. How can you not give your top receiver on your team and someone that's competing to be a top five, if not already there, receiver in the league, you're not giving him his payday?
Well,
And if you do it now, you don't have to worry about his money catching up right away. That money will catch up at a later point in time.
they have more problems than just defense. They have a right tackle situation with Trent Brown going down
That
and being
hurts.
out for the season. So now I think Amarius Mims is now stepping into that spot. I do wonder how that's going to work out or maybe even hurt the Bengals in a way. It didn't hurt them last night. It didn't hurt them on Monday night, but it could be a problem going forward,
De
especially with them being down 0-3.
Depending on the team, like this week we have the Panthers, depending on the Ravens could be an issue, the Steelers we could have issues with it, but I think it's all like matchup dependent on how I will say he performed pretty good last night or Monday night, I'm sorry. Yeah, he didn't perform terrible. Um, I have a lot of positives for Amarius Mims. He played on the Georgia team that won the national championships. He's a big body. He is your prototypical tackle. It was pretty much his first consistent snaps of the season so far, other than just being an additional tackle on certain plays. I don't think he did that bad. He he didn't have any penalties in the game, so that's a positive. That is a big positive. Um, but like you said, it could hurt them, but I would say it could more hurt us in certain games depending on how quick he can pick up and, you know, perform essentially. Um,
Well,
but
speaking of games, it's going to be the Red Rifle versus
yep.
Joe Burrow. And those two are the only quarterbacks to throw for 300 yards in a game so far this season. And it's kind of putting a lot of the young QBs in a tough spot. But I still want to talk about the Panthers Bengals game. Uh, do you expect any improvement? Do you expect both teams to light it up? Any quick comments about that?
Well, it's the Panthers. Um, Andy Dalton made that offense look a lot better than Bryce Young did. But again, I'm not going to take away from Bryce Young. He is talented. I think what they should have done is not had him start right away from the beginning. Like that was the main issue is you kind of need to let him learn, develop him. Don't throw him to the fire or else you're going to get what you got this year. Andy Dalton's been very consistent. I wasn't the biggest Andy Dalton guy when he was in Cincinnati. Um, I know there may be a lot of other people that were. That was just me personally. I wasn't a big Andy Dalton guy. Um, I think the game will be really competitive. Panthers are 1-2. Bengals are this is a must win for the Bengals. Um, they're already, I think, a 5 point favorite or something in the game, which I really wish they wouldn't have put that out already. But it is what it is. Nonetheless, I'm hoping our defense can perform, but I'm not holding my breath. I'm hoping to see a big game from our D line because I know the Panthers O line may be, decent, but I'm hoping that we've got guys that just outperform what the Panthers have. It's going to be a tough game for me to stomach if the defense struggles because there's a tipping point that I'm at where it's like if the defense isn't performing, we've got to look and see what's going on other than the DJ Reader issue. Because I understand losing a guy like DJ Reader hurts, but there's got to be a more deeper issue than just DJ Reader not being there.
Well, if they go 0-4, I would say the season is probably over, unfortunately, but there's still hope for them to turn it around.
Crazier things have happened.
They're pretty much the only 0-3 team that I could see maybe going 10-3 for the rest of the stretch and sneaking into the playoffs, but it's history's not on their side, so they might make a run. On they they could definitely make a run. They have a fourth place schedule, so they were Super Bowl like favorites. They're like with the scheduling, with Joe Burrow full training camp. It just the expectations were really high.
I think you may agree with me on this, and I think a lot of people could agree with me on this. As much as I don't think that it's affecting in season right now, like the current headspace of everything, I think the Jamar Chase contract killed him in the off season period. Jamar Chase wasn't at the OT. Jamar Chase wasn't at training camp. If he was, he showed up late or he changed the last minute to not be in there. He just showed up and dressed in, street clothes essentially. I think that hurt a lot because your offense can't really get a feel for everyone if not everyone's participating in the camp. Um, T. Higgins being hurt, it is what it is. We knew that going into the season he was hurt.
Also has some contract
Um,
stuff.
yes, yes. But I
Trey
think
Hendrickson, they've had a lot of contract stuff. DJ Reader, I don't like I don't want to beat the drum too much, but another contract that
I
just
just
went elsewhere.
I
There's
think
too
the
much.
Jamar one weighed a lot more than some of the other guys
It's
because I
because
think the team expected him to get it
it
and he
was
didn't get it.
it was we're not paying T. Higgins because we got to pay Jamar Chase, just not to just to go ahead and not pay Jamar Chase.
Yep.
that's a black mark on your organization, no matter how you slice it, because everyone knows that if you go to Cincinnati, you might not be taken care of. Like if Joe Burrow wasn't the quarterback and that the
There's
fans
no
prob
draw.
yeah, and the fans wouldn't like and the fans, probably would have burned down the stadium.
I'm
But
also talking just offensive free agents. Hayden
yes,
Hurst came here for Joe Burrow. Orlando Brown wanted to block for Joe Burrow.
people want to come here, but they also gotta get paid. And you want to have that feeling of security of knowing that, hey, when I come, does this organization have my back? Or are they going to take care of me? So far, they don't want to. I'm not going to say organizational wide, but that's the
That's
perception
why.
around the league. That's why people go to Dallas, people go to Baltimore,
Oh,
and
hold on, hold on. Not a lot of people go to Dallas. Let's be honest here. But I get
they
what you're
get
saying.
they get paid in Dallas.
Yeah.
Them
Well, not
Cowboys,
this offseason. Not this offseason. Jerry Jones felt he had a great team.
he had a great team, but he still paid CD Lamb.
Yeah.
So he's still paying his players. Not everyone, but
Yeah.
he kind of missed the ball on Derrick Henry, who still got it
Yeah.
and want to.
Breaking news, Derrick Henry is still him.
Derrick Henry is not Derrick Henry. I mean, Derrick Henry is not a human being,
Yeah.
obviously. So pairing him with because they went I formation and said, we don't care that we're going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball anyways.
So I think before we wrap it up here, I think I want to bring up some of the attractions for college football this week, week 4 or week 5 for college football. Big slate. Kentucky Ole Miss be a really good game. You've got Notre Dame and Louisville, 3-0 Louisville against 3-1 Notre Dame. You've got Arkansas, Texas A&M. Both of them are 3-1. Texas against Mississippi State, Ohio State, Michigan State. Georgia and Alabama will be a really good game.
That was the only marquee matchup that I
And you've
have
got
on the
Oregon
board.
and UCLA.
That's at the 11 o'clock, and